A story about the media, not about how more reporters are getting laid off, but how journalism is adapting. Well, a bit of it anyway.
50 years ago, the newspapers could live off of, if you were the free press of the news, these major full-page Hudson's ads, Highland Appliance ads.
Veteran reporter and journalism professor Tim Kiska was there when the newspaper business was booming.
The free press and the news, in my opinion, are doing a really good job with what they've got. But their resources are limited.
Big city papers, small town ones downsized or gone. In Howell, they've still got the Livingston Daily, but not the powerhouse of old.
When it became really obvious to most people that the newspaper was kind of a shell of what it had been, people would come up and say, "Oh, you must love that."
John King ran the local radio station's news department. Less competition must have been good for him, right? Well, maybe a little.
I live in this community, and I think communities are better served when you have vibrant, viable news sources that are competing against one another.
So here now, add another news outlet to the mix. Mike Marino and John King got it going on, GIGO for short, where it's looking up for their daily podcast.
Rise and shine, it's GIGO time.
This all happened real fast.
Are you working?
Yeah. Well, we're doing a podcast now.
Oh, okay.
And actually just finished the podcast and came over here, so that's why I'm a little bit late.
For 2 decades, King and Marino did morning radio in Howell, where King provided award-winning local news coverage.
Today is going to be my last day at WHMI.
And today is also my last day.
January 2022, a dispute with radio management. When the station asked King to leave, Marino went too.
The Mike and John brand, for whatever that's worth, is largely built on community news and information.
But there is something we want you to know about, and that's the Miles for Smiles event, which is, it's the 5th annual event coming up.
Yeah.
Why are you putting your hand like that?
Right.
It's like,
because it's too early. It's too early.
It's too early?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, about 15 minutes. We have fun. We definitely try and bring an element of humor, into what we do. But a lot of it is really based on serving the community with news and information. We've added the video component now.
Sure.
All those years we were on the radio, we could do the hand signals to each other. You suck, stop. And now we can't. Now people can see us.
It was just, we are who we are. We're 2 guys doing a radio show. Now we're just 2 guys doing a podcast.
But while you're doing news...
If the New York Times can have a daily podcast, so can Livingston County, which you can also see on Facebook and YouTube. There's a website, too.
Here's what's going on. A suspected drunk driver is under arrest. Almost immediately, people let us know that they really wanted news as part of what we did. We didn't originally start with news, but then really quickly, people let us know, we want news. We want to know about the community. We want to know what's going on. A local lawmaker's bill to create the Michigan Vietnam Veteran Recognition Certificate has been approved by the state legislature.
John's a trusted news source in the community, so it made sense to include it.
Is it okay if I talk to you real quick? Sure. Yeah, all right. When I started doing news, we're like, well, what do we call this? How do we brand the news? How do we say what the news is? And GIGO just kind of fit.
Surprise.
Yeah, so what are your thoughts? This was a surprise. I'm putting up a GIGO news logo on there right now.
It's a fancy
technology is
in the palm of his hand.
Don't say it that way. That doesn't sound right.
And news brought to you by
The technology that a typical podcaster would use, there are more bells and whistles and things that you can do with it.
Cooper and Binkley logo.
Than the Beatles had when they recorded Abbey Road.
And so now to be able to do something I had no experience in, doing video editing, that's just not, I'm a radio guy. All right, there you go. Way back Wednesday with our good buddy from Fowlerville.
There's an audience there. Now, it's not a big audience. I think that what we're getting into is a world of niche stuff.
We've been able to monetize it, and that's nice. We've had some advertisers that have, they see the value in what we're doing, and they've come on board, and so that's great.
The question is, can you get enough advertising to make that go? And that's always the tough question.
It's not paying our mortgage, mind you, so we each have other jobs that we're doing.
Part-time pay, but the news infrastructure is still in place.
It's like you have a tipster network out there based on this 20 years of experience and connections that we've built up. If you don't mind.
Council President Pro Tem James Tate. Here. Council President Mary Sheffield.
Present. Sometimes city council formal session will go till 4 in the afternoon.
In Detroit, a crew newer to the news game.
I'm keeping an eye on how many people have signed up for assignments.
It's the Detroit Documenters, where engaged citizens do the reporting.
We train Detroiters to attend government meetings and take notes and report on what happens. We pay them to do this.
I'm hopeful about the state of the media right now because of what we're doing, and I think that it's a growing phenomenon. I think the news needs to be participatory, and that's exactly what we offer.
Documenters, they don't need a journalism background.
I just kind of needed a civic side hustle, already interested in civics and community journalism, so it was a great job for me.
I spent the last 25 years as a live sound engineer, and I moved to Detroit from San Francisco, during COVID.
A COVID lockdown, no shows to do? Noah Kincaid turned to documenting.
And this is literally people from all different professions who are doing this to help their city.
Sonia Stuckey's an educator by trade.
And I saw where they were paying people to sit in on meetings and take notes. And I said, wow, okay, I'm going, and so I called.
It popped up on Facebook as an event, an orientation for documenters. And I was like, oh, that sounds interesting.
People want to do this work. People are excited to do this work.
Discussion, Member Santiago Ramiro. No objection.
About a month later is when I decided to finally take an assignment. Since then, I've been hooked every week.
The nonprofit Documenters Project started before the pandemic, part of Outlier Media in Detroit, and partnered with several other newsrooms in town. Documenters are in some other mostly Midwest cities, too. The pay is not high, but seems enough to make it worthwhile.
I've done a lot of city council meetings.
We do Wayne County Commission.
The Land Bank Authority is a big one.
I've been to the Library Commission meeting.
And we do GLWA, Great Lakes Water Authority. We do Detroit Water and Sewage Department.
Chairman Einhauser.
I'm here mostly.
I did a lot of that when the flood was last year. It feels like I was in all those meetings.
Regional Transit Authority.
It's showing right now live on Facebook.
Occasionally we'll do GDOT meetings.
The Board of Police Commissioners meetings, which are very interesting.
Excuse me. There's only one person talking at a time.
Our documenters really love those assignments.
SEMCOG meetings.
The Ethics Board meetings.
Anything that pops up that seems like it will be in the real interest of the people.
We're observing everything, the demeanor of the officials, how they interact with each other.
Can we stick to the agenda,
Please,
Mr. Chairman?
Please, sir. That's one warning.
The accessibility of the meeting. Now that we're virtual, do they have their name and their Zoom screen window? Did they upload the agenda in time? So we document everything about the meeting. And what you're gonna get out of Documenters Notes is not like some synthesized government minutes, but actual notes about the atmosphere and everything.
What we publish has been verified multiple times.
That's what I like about Detroit Documenters. There's no spin. They fact check everything that we do.
Documenters cover meetings two ways. One writes up meeting details for the record, edited by seasoned journalists, while the other sends a live Twitter stream as meetings happen.
I live tweet these meetings, so as the meeting's happening, I'm tweeting every detail that I can, taking complex information and simplifying it so that the public can understand what exactly is going on.
We want their take on what they saw, but not their opinions.
I'm the only person who covers, city government on a day-to-day basis for Bridge Detroit. The documenters really kind of help me fill in the gaps. Having some kind of record for me as a reporter to go back and say, oh shoot, I missed Board of Water Commissioners. It seemed like there was something interesting going on. I can immediately find out what happened in that meeting.
Anyone has any additional comments?
Documenters like Kaylee Licklider and Sonia Stuckey are getting recognized for their work in outlets like Outlier, WDET Radio, and the Free Press.
Actually, the last year has had a lot of big ticket stuff that people were really voicing their opinion about.
Right to counsel, eviction, homelessness right now is a growing issue in Detroit.
Public comments is what I like to focus on because people come in and they have some very legitimate concerns. And a lot of time they would kind of just, get the brush off.
I am now facing a retaliatory eviction from my tiny home.
Tora Brown, worried her eviction story was forgotten, brought some visual aids to City Council that Licklider posted online.
She caught a picture of it and put it on Documenters.
And then people started asking me about it again. So, I mean, people knew about it, but they really knew about it after she tweeted about it.
Brown said Licklider's post led to more news coverage of this tiny house controversy.
I don't know if you've gone to her Twitter page. She has a massive following. Like, a lot of people follow her. Police, nurses. It's a potpourri of people following her.
It's going to take a little while for people to say, oh, if I want to find out what's going on in Detroit, these documenter folks keep on dredging this stuff out. Maybe I'll start paying attention to that. And it takes a while, for that stuff to get traction. It just does.
With big stories like the Hudson skyscraper tax break and funding for the Detroit police shot spotter technology, citizens watch documenters watch city council.
The shot spotter and everything else, we don't want it.
Does city council watch the documenters?
Maybe they're a little bit more deliberative because people are watching and people are showing up and talking about it.
Yeah, I get the sense that city council is reactive to more eyes on what they're doing.
We should be having discussions about emergency housing and not how people don't understand tax incentives.
It can be pretty obvious with a couple of different votes that happened this year or didn't happen this year. That it came after a lot of residents came forward, well-informed residents too, not just people who, heard about something and, these people knew what they were talking about.
And it begs the question, we really can't think of a better way to spend $8.5 million to make the city safe.
I feel like documenters is kind of like independent journalism that says, hey, John Q. Public, this is what this is who's doing it, and this is what you should know. And that's what I like.
Turns out Tara Brown works occasionally as a documenter herself. She's covered the Wayne County Ethics Board. She's a tenants' rights activist too, but she says she won't let her biases affect her coverage.
You'll never find me at a meeting about homeless solutions, documenting it. You'll probably find me there during public comment fussing about it, but you won't find me there documenting it.
We just don't know where all of this is going to head. I just know that there are some really smart, hardworking people, well-intentioned people too, trying to make transparency mean something as opposed to a concept.
It was built and designed to be everywhere, to be in every city.
We have documenters almost every orientation ask about, do you ever cover Macomb County? And I mean, no. Get your own documenters program. No, I don't know. I don't know how it might grow, but right now it's Detroit Documenters and we're focused on Detroit.
I would hope that it expands into some of the smaller communities where we've really seen this kind of hollowing out of the journalism infrastructure, like the options of where you get your information from.
Reporter Malachi Barrett's thinking of places like Flint, Kalamazoo. But what about places like Livingston County? At least they've still got their old watchdogs in place.
Things are changing, and so this is part of kind of settling that in. How do we as a society access information? And that's what's going on.
And news brought to you by Cooper.
What is newsworthy? What is trustworthy? Those things have all been kind of thrown up in the air, and now it's beginning to kind of settle down, and I think people are beginning to, in small ways, become a little bit more discerning. Who can I trust to give me accurate information?
Here we go. We're getting fancy. We're adding the third microphone.
Yeah. We joke about being in a basement and, I'm using my phone to videotape this thing and, we kind of cobble together the stuff that we need to do this. But I think that for the aesthetic of what we do, it works.
I think we're ready.
Well,
I mean, I don't know.
Let it roll and see what happens.
Let's find out.
We roll the dice on this show daily, so why not
all right.
do anything different today?
You can find more at onedetroitpbs.org or subscribe to our social media channels and sign up for our One Detroit newsletter.